Hello everyone, I am Luis and welcome again to this Facebook page, Woodside SDA Youth. And this year, like you've seen before, we are doing these very short video clips, and where we talk about the Bible and the chapters that we read in the yearly Bible reading plan. So yesterday, we read Genesis chapters 34 to 36. And today, we read Genesis chapter 37 to chapter 39. So briefly, what did these chapters talk about? In Genesis 37, we were finally introduced to Joseph and his brothers. We were introduced to their relationship, and we were introduced to how Joseph ended up in Egypt. So, chapter 37, Joseph has dreams. His brothers are jealous of him. They hate him because of his dreams. And so they decide to get rid of him. At first, they wanted to kill him, but then they decided to sell him as a slave to the Ishmaelites, and he was taken to Egypt. In chapter 38, we have a different story. It talks about Judah instead of Joseph. We get back to Joseph in chapter 39. But in this chapter, it talks about Judah, his three sons, and his oldest son's wife, or later widowed. And it's a very interesting story. If you read it, you're going to have a bunch of questions reading this story. I used to ask myself, why is this story here? Well, and sometimes I still ask myself, why is this story here? Why is this important? But I really like how the characters in this story are direct ancestors of Jesus Christ. So that's kind of cool, learning to know about the people from which Jesus Christ came. In chapter 39, we see Joseph in Egypt, God helping Joseph to prosper in the land of Egypt, a foreign land to Joseph. And we also see Potiphar's wife tempting Joseph, and we see that, because of what she did, her mistakes, her evilness, evil person, she makes Joseph go to jail. So in these videos, like most of us know, we like to address three things about the reading. First, what new things did I learn? Second, what questions do I have about the reading? And third, what can I apply to my everyday life? This is very important, because we're not just trying to read here to check off our reading schedule. We want to learn something new about the Word of God. So, what new things did I learn? One of the things that I learned, even though it's not explicitly told in the chapter, but I think I can safely conclude this, is that Reuben, the oldest son of Jacob, has lost his authority over his brothers. And why do I say this? In the previous chapters, Reuben has slept with his father's concubine. Now, I used to think this was like a secret sin that we later find out, because someone wrote it, or, later in life they found out. But I think it's very apparent that his incest, his sin, Reuben's, him sleeping with his father's concubine, was actually known by everyone. And why I say this is because usually in the Bible, as I've been reading so far, the firstborn, like the eldest, the eldest son, has the authority, pretty much over the authority over everyone, of his brothers, of the servants, of everything. And when the brothers of Joseph wanted to kill Joseph, Reuben steps up and says, "Please don't kill him. Let's just do this to teach him a lesson, but don't do anything to him. And please, protect him. Please don't let nothing happen." Right? And then Reuben leaves. And once he leaves, his brothers, they continue thinking, what can we do to Joseph? And they end up selling Joseph to the Ishmaelites and being taken to Egypt behind Reuben's back. So when Reuben comes back, he finds out that Joseph is gone. He starts to cry. He even comes back with a rope ready to save Joseph. And this teaches me that his brothers no longer respected him. They no longer cared what Reuben really had to say about it. They just found out what Reuben did. So to them, they lost all respect. He no longer had authority over them. So that's one of the things that I learned from this chapter, the relationship between the brothers, the little dramas here and there, and the loss of respect, kind of characterizes the brothers in this point of the story. So what questions do I have about the reading? And this is one of, very difficult things that I had to read. It said that the eldest son of Judah did wrong things in the eyes of God, so then God killed him. The Bible doesn't go on to say he had a warning, what sin did he do, or what terrible things he did to other people. It just says he was bad, so God killed him. The second son, he took care of his older brother's widow, which was Tamar. And they lied together, but he did not want to impregnate Tamar. So because he did that, he didn't want to impregnate Tamar. And the reason why is because the descendants that they have will not be credited to the second son, but will be credited to the first son. And he didn't want that. So the second son of Judah refused to impregnate Tamar. And this was considered terrible in the eyes of the Lord. And God also killed him. Now in my head, I'm like, geez, like maybe I can kind of fix this in my head and say they had a tragic accident and they died, and that was credited to God. But I feel like the Bible's telling me directly that no, God decided to kill these people. Like, killed the eldest son for reasons, I don't know why. Like, he was evil, but I don't know what he did. The second, he didn't want to impregnate a woman. In today's society, that's kind of a good thing for a young man to do. But obviously context is very important in this story. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to give his brother's descendants. So he got killed by God. Now I'm kind of confused. Like, there's many times where people in the Bible, they do commit wrong things, but God doesn't kill them. He actually gives them chances and chances. So why here he just kills those two sons of Judah? There's a lot of thinking that I have to do with these verses, but yeah, that's one of my questions that I have here. Why did God decide to do that? So the third question, what can I apply to my everyday life? And I think this, what I learned here in chapter 39, is very important. We see that Joseph was tempted by Potiphar's wife constantly, not just one time like the movies show it, but constantly tempting Joseph. And one of the things that I realized is the first times where Potiphar's wife tempts Joseph, you can kind of see that the situation was not really perfect. Like, there's people walking around, or people can easily find out if Joseph decides to fall into sin. But the Bible then presents a situation where Joseph is alone in the house. So and Potiphar's wife decides to tempt him. And in this situation, it was kind of different than the ones before. Potiphar's wife, she's like, we're alone. If we do this, no one can find out. It's not like before where, we were doing something very risky. But now, if you decide to lie with me, it's okay because no one's here. And Joseph, one of the things that he does is that he refuses, and he realizes that he will not be strong enough if he stays there. So then he runs away from the house. He flees. Right? And I think we can learn something very important from here. I know that everyone here, everyone listening to me, to this video, we all have our own temptations, our own struggles, our own addictions, whether it be a porn addiction, sex addiction, addiction to drugs, all those bad things. Many times we ask ourselves, God, why can I not free myself from this? Like, I pray to you, but I can't free myself. One of the things that Joseph does here that we can really apply to our lives is that he removes himself from the situation. He doesn't eliminate the temptation. The temptation is there, but he removes himself from that situation. Now, removing yourself from the situation doesn't mean that you're going to be healed, but it's going to make it a little harder for you to fall. See, God can help you overcome those temptations, but he also knows that your human heart, at the end of the day, you are the one deciding whether you want to sin or not. So if you have an addiction to a lot of those drugs, try to cut your connection, your easy pathway to get to those things. If you are addicted to, pornography or sex, try to cut off the bridges that leads you into those temptations, into doing those sins. Try to make it hard for yourself to get to those places. If it's friends that are letting you do these bad things, cut away those friends. Like, don't hang out with those friends anymore. If it's a software, eliminate that software. If it's a TV show, eliminate that TV show. Start cutting things off so that God can help you with this temptation. God can help you, but many times we are the ones who fall. So one of the things that Joseph teaches us is to trust God and run away and run towards God. If you're struggling with anything, I just want to tell you that God is with you. And I pray that you first trust God in the process, in the journey. It's going to be a very hard journey. Second, remove yourself from easy ways to fall to that temptation. And third, get help. Trust God. Get professional help. Call a parent. Call your most trusted friends. Call your pastor. Get help from God's people. And yes, everyone. This is the things that we learned from today's reading. I learned so many things, and if you learned something, please share it in the comments. If you think that I completely took something out of context, please leave that in the comments also as well, so that we can all learn here together. Thank you so much for joining us, and God bless you.